Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hope you're doing fantastic. So, I wanted to kind of make a video defending working class men who are good-hearted, but they're having a difficult time finding a wife because some women are being groomed today by social media to despise men who are not absurdly wealthy. Okay? And this has been a tale as old as time, I'm aware, right? I'm aware that there's always been gold diggers and people who really want a luxurious lifestyle. You know, women oftentimes do love beautiful things and love to be pampered and think they are a Disney princess. I'm well aware. However, from my own experience, I never dated anybody seriously who had a college degree. I mostly went with Mexican or Guatemalan migrant workers who came from villages. I liked them because they were down to earth, close to nature. They had different bone structures just because of the hard labor they faced as a child. Their energy, their smile, their purity, it was something really unique. And their endurance made them more masculine. Even the shape of their knuckles, everything about them, the shape of their feet from walking on the hard ground with no shoes. This was something very admirable, something that you could see that these people had struggled. And before the feminists say, it's probably because you couldn't get any. No, I could have. I definitely could have. However, I know that when you get with somebody who has wealth, you're required to dress a certain way, constantly smile, be this sort of politician almost with whoever he brings home. And that is time consuming and it's so fake and I don't like doing it. Now some women love to be the, hi, how are you, hostess type of person. Me, it's like, I got stuff to do. Whatever your friends is doing is whatever they're doing. I don't got time for that. I'm not going to be the hostess standing there with a tray of appetizers. I'll cook the food and then go upstairs and read. That's kind of how I am. Yeah, I'm not going to do that, and I'm not going to wear heels. And I'm not going to do any of that. No, I got other things to do that I like. I like more rugged outdoors kind of stuff. And also just nerdy reading where it's silent. Like, when my partner sometimes reads, it's completely quiet in the house. Little ones doing writing or something and I'm reading. I'll put on the sounds of the ocean and everybody's just studying, and that's peace to me. I don't like a guy in a suit and you gotta go to the car, you gotta go with him to the restaurant and they're having a meeting and there's like polished shoes and nice watches. That's not really me. And when you're gonna play that political part as a woman to your man and to his friends, it's a very ugly world to me. Whereas when you're dealing, for me personally as an American, when we have all the Latino migrants, those people, for me, were just really down to earth. And I was always, since a child, so connected with them. And most of my friends were Mexican. Most of them. And so when I'd play or I'd hang out, I just grew up in that community naturally. And when you go to their houses, there's just people there, down to earth. There's tamales, tacos, homemade salsas, homemade tortillas, horchata, which is like a rice drink. And I liked the down to earth farming, agriculture, stay at home mom energy. I'd never really liked the elite circles. And whenever I'd get around them, I'd be anxious and kind of want to leave. Now I could compete with them mentally and some of them would invite me. I often had people who were, I would say, pampered rich kids. They really enjoyed talking to me, having me help them with their homework or whatever. But they'd be like, let's go out here, let's go out to eat, or let's do this. And like the places they'd want to go and how far they'd want to drive. Their behavior, their antics. There's just a difference between spoiled rich kids and rich girls and like their mannerisms than there is to like people on the less rich scale, right? What they want to do. Like, for example, I could have just a piece of meat called carne asada that my Latino friends would do, cook some green onions on a grill, cook jalapenos, some tortillas on a grill. We got a paper plate, we got a drink, and we're sitting in the front yard. Some person's sitting on a rock, someone's on the grass, someone's on almost a broken chair, and we're just talking. And that to me is way more fun than having to constantly spend money, buy the best brands, and compete in this way, because it's so excessive. It's such a waste of time, right? And so when people try to justify always seeking the rich guy, you need to think about the downside as well. Men who have wealth, they have a certain level of endurance of weeding out women who just want the money. I think Hollywood has really brainwashed women into thinking that money equals morality. Money equals always safety. Rather, if you're with a working class guy, the amount of women who approach him is far lower than with the rich men. And when I would go with the migrant farm workers, because I speak Spanish, my Spanish is really good. Some of them, you know, they just didn't even speak English, and I would approach them and I would talk to them. And the person I'm with now is somebody who is from a very rural jungle village, grew up with a dirt floor, palm leaves on top, grew up in that hut, slept in a hamaca. A hamaca is a hammock handmade by his mother. His mother only speaks Mayan, so they're indigenous tribal people of Mexico. And she gave birth to his, 8 other siblings, there are 10 in total, in that house, in the little hut, in the jungle. For a long time, they didn't have electricity or running water. They had to go to a well. And I like that type of person because they know real life. They know what it's like to just hear the sounds of tropical birds, to hear the sound of a good hunt when you're going through the woods in the jungle trying to get meat for your family. They're so tuned in to the raw reality of this world and had grown up outside the digital matrix, outside of the city grid, that their perspective on the world is so much more tuned. Yeah, they're more strict people. You can't bully these men. I'll tell you that right now. You cannot. Like, a feminist has power on a cucked city boy. A city boy whose mom neglected him, put him in boarding school, made him play the violin, made him a fancy pants boy with his little gel in his hair. Right? A feminist witch knows how to manipulate a dude like that, because he's got no masculinity oozing from him. But with the men from the jungle, men from rural areas, whose mothers raised them in the most traditional way, and their fathers worked in the fields, these are men you cannot, just easily bully. They're literally like having a bull in a stable, a stag in a stable. They're literally a stallion. Because you have to shape up your attitude as an American in order to deal with these kind of men. And that is why so many women are now having, marriages and getting with Latinos, people born in America, and they're not choosing their own race. Because they're seeing the differences in how the men behave. And when you have a man who is working class, who grew up in a very rugged way, they help you feel centered. I remember the first time I touched his leg, it felt like concrete, like stone. I had never seen or felt a body that solid before from muscle. Now, when you go to see bodybuilders who are always injecting steroids, there's still a squishiness and a weirdness to their body. It looks so fake. But when you meet somebody who has like a real body like Hercules, and it's from working hard labor, from lifting weights and doing it all natural, you're like, wow. Wow. You see an aspect, I think, of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in them concerning the healthiness that Allah has given to humans if they only go for it. Right? When you see the office guy who has 0 biceps, 0 triceps, has a little tiny pudge belly, and then you see a guy with abs who has a nice huge back, big muscles, great shoulders, calves like you never seen, quadriceps that are like a horse's thigh, you're like, wow, that's quite amazing. And so when it comes to being a woman, right, You may think you always want the fancy pants guy because you're attracted to the suit and the symbolism of the wealth. But then when he disrobes, his body is less than perfect, and if he does have a nice body, he's like skinny meth head perfect, and he's pampered. He's so used to women falling at their feet, and you're gonna have to constantly worry more about a guy like that than you would just a working class rural guy who was raised with better manners and who has a different view on women and who is maybe more stubborn, more strict, and won't let you get away with as much. But in the end, a person like that is going to hold you down. See, when you get a rich boy, and if he goes into poverty, his mind can't handle it. He's so used to being pampered. He thinks he's better than everybody. He's haughty. He's arrogant. Way easier to get fatter in old age and think that just because he has, a nice pants brand and suits, that it's okay for him to be out of shape because he has money, because he knows the woman will just sleep with him anyways, because he's wealthy and she wants to continue her lifestyle. Whereas a man who's closer to the earth, who's more of what we call salt of the earth, a lot of them maintain their bodies because they're always working. They're always doing something hard, physical, keeping their testosterone in check without having to always go to the damn doctor and get injections all the time. I'm telling you that you will be much happier, I think, if you went for the average guy. Now, if you're going to be a stay-at-home mom, every guy has more money than you. The hypergamy chart or whatever. The guy's going to automatically have more money than you. If you found somebody who is strict, checks your worst impulses, doesn't let you get away with everything, is fully manifested as a man, and he's not just some rich dude and he maybe has just an average car, that's perfectly fine. I cared for a particular individual who for a long time had no car. I'd ride the bus with them. I didn't care. When you like somebody, you like somebody. And that is the thing you need to remember. I have a nice truck now, right? Nice stuff now. But I didn't care. Whatever pleases him. He wants this truck. Okay, let's get the truck, right? Men like cars. I don't care about cars. For me, it was, how do you treat me? Can you buy organic food? How is your body? How is your mind? Are you able to survive if the grid goes down? These are real world skills. I understand that people think that money will always be the security. But remember, how many mafiosos had rich wives? Okay, and their wives were kind of like, this guy is doing illegal things, but he's kind of not. I'm not sure, because smart guys don't tell their wives their crimes. And then, when the feds kicked down their door, confiscated the wealth, and everybody's suing these mafiosos, those women were put into the poorhouse. How many women of the cartels, they thought they were going to be the princess girl, and then their bodies faded, they got passed around the cartel, no one wifed them up, and then they have a bad reputation to where even the poor villagers are like, oh, that shit got plugged by everybody. So again, you may think you want a CEO of this company, but you don't know how these CEOs party in their offices behind their wives' back. You don't know if they're going on a business trip, how many of them cheat on their wives on a business trip. And if you say, oh, well, that's okay, because I don't see it, and I get to live this way, but then you argue against polygamy. So if you're fine with your husband sleeping with some stranger on his business vacation, but you're not okay with him having a second wife who is cured of STDs and has nothing wrong with her, and is a pious Muslimah, what's going on with you? And it's so easy to think that just because some guy has wealth, he'll be Prince Charming, and that a poor guy is somehow a toad and he's gross and his hands are dirty from work. No, you want that. You may think you want the pretty soft-handed guy with too much gel in his hair and his pencil beard. You may think you want that, right? But there is something natural about a real man who is just a man, I highly encourage you to give the average man a second thought. If you're hitting 30, I really encourage you to accept your fate. Don't believe these Instagram female influencers. A lot of them are lying. They're getting paid. They're letting guys poop on them, pee in their mouths, have relations with camels, relations with donkeys, relations with dogs. They do all kinds of horrible things to give the illusion that they're living a nice, independent lifestyle. Rather, they're selling out their dignity and bodies. And the clock's running out on them. And before long, they'll become a fetish on the bottom page of a porn site. Whereas if you choose, and they'll be special to no one. Whereas if you choose to go with an average man, working class job, and somebody who is just really down to earth, salt of the earth, hardy we call it, someone who's just salt and stone, you know, you can have a happier future. Money doesn't always equal happiness. And in times of danger, you want a real man to defend you. These city boys, these office boys, hunched over at their computers all day, it's just not the same than a man who's out under the sun, sweating, breaking his back. When he comes home from work and takes a shower, he wants you. An office boy who's just been sitting there in his cushy little soft chair, and, you know, he's so special, and he's not in shape, and he takes you on a nice vacation. But at the end of the day, when you're beauty and you're looking at yourself in the mirror, and then you look at your mate, it's almost like you don't really match. When you have a man who is a raw man, he may not have wealth, but he has oozing masculine energy. And that is a way sweeter nectar than the paper, just fiat currency and all the little objects you bought around you. One thing in particular I'll tell you is that if you are plunged into poverty and all you have is a mattress on the floor and your spouse, would you still look at your spouse with love, with affection, with desire? If the answer is yes, then I'd argue you found the right one. But if you're looking at him and you're like, you know, but at least he has money. At least I can, you know, go on vacation. Oh, I can get this other pair of shoes. Oh, I can take pictures for Instagram and brag to everybody. This is not gonna really fulfill your heart, fulfill who you are. And so I highly encourage you to give the average man and the below average man a chance. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that you have to pick a bum who is living on welfare, has no ambition, and who's lazy. That's not what I mean. A hard-working man can work hard in the field and works harder than the guy being a paper pusher accountant. You know, it's quite different energy. Understand who you really are and understand what's going to last long term, and understand about yourself. What do you need to feel fulfilled as a woman? What is really going to unlock your womanness? And it's having a true man next to you. And these fancy pants guys and their elite jobs with college degrees popping out of their butt, sometimes those guys just don't hit it. They just don't hit the mark. It's just not gonna, you know, you may think, oh, because I'm a college educated woman, like that you need some guy the same. Rather, if you pick these average guys, some of them will love you longer and love you in a more truer way than the fancy pants guys. It's really an interesting dynamic. I never wanted somebody who was the same educational level or higher educational level or super wealthy, because wealthy men can make you disappear. Wealthy men often are way more perverted than the average guy, and wealthy men are more of a risk for leaving you in adultery because they're magnets for the most degenerate women. And if you want to deal with that kind of stress and you're thinking, oh, I'll get divorced, I'll get all this money, so either way it'll be good. Nah, you're thinking like a sneak thief. I really encourage you to look at an average guy and pick a masculine guy, especially if you're American. A lot of these immigrant farm workers, I'll tell you, they stand out in the sun working all day, men doing construction, Those are good looking men, some of them. And I think that you'll be much more happier. Sure, you won't have all the glitz and glamour, but that's why you need a hobby. A hobby will help you. Find something for you to do to occupy your time. You can build flower arrangements, have a garden, sew, knit, do gaming reviews, practice cooking. You can do all kinds of fun stuff to entertain yourself so that your non-luxurious lifestyle doesn't affect you, okay? I highly encourage you to do that. And I'll tell it to you because I have seen way more happiness results with just someone who's, average. Pick somebody who struggled, who had hardness in their life. And a man who's had real, hardcore struggles. They have a totally different energy than a guy whose parents paid for his college and, everything's been handed to him on a silver platter. He's so entitled. He's so pampered. He's just, every woman has to come to me. It's just not the same. Not the same. And the way they navigate female psychology versus the way a more rugged man navigates female psychology is quite different. So just think about what I said. And if you're 25, try to really find a spouse. And if you're 22, I'd say do the same. You're in your 20s. Don't be pushing like these feminists till you're 35. You're not as hot or as attractive as someone who's 20. You're just not. No matter how many photoshopped images, plastic surgery, 17,000 layers of makeup, fake eyelashes, fake nails, painted eyebrows, hair extensions, whatever else you're going to put on you to alter yourself, it's not going to last. And at the end of the day, all that washes off and you are who you are when you step out of the shower. And it's okay to let gravity and time take over your body to where you're not the hottest chick in the room anymore. It's okay to age. Get a man who will truly understand you and who love isn't dependent upon finance. I highly encourage you for that. I truly do.